the 20th Annual Hildene Lincoln Essay Competition Awards Luncheon. 20th anniversary, that's already I'm Stephanie Moffitt, and I'm the Programming Director and Administrator of this competition. And you have all come from points all over this marvelous, brave little state. And we are so happy to gather you all together for a celebration that promises to be just a wonderful, happy event to acknowledge Vermont's extraordinary 8th graders. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Now, before we give out the awards, there are many people I would like to acknowledge. And first and foremost, it is my pleasure to thank our benefactors, Margaret Kading and Sherry Siegel. Their generosity has gone a long way in making today's celebration possible. I'm deeply grateful. Thank you, ladies. I'd also like to thank GNAT-TV for graciously covering this and sharing it with Vermonters throughout the state through the Vermont Media Exchange. Thank you so much, GNAT, for all you do for our community. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Pangea, our exclusive caterers and wonderful partners, and on your tables you'll find the menus for today's offerings. I'm also grateful to Hildene's Board of Trustees, 3 of whom are with us today. We have Randall Perkins over there, Jim Evans, and also former board chair and trustee emeritus, Ken Moriarty. Thank you. Thank you also to staff members Gary Parzik, Nancy Trutner, Lisa Maggio, and volunteer Marie Farr. They are all going to give you a wonderful tour up at the house afterwards. So thank you to them. And a huge thank you to the in-house staff who participated in the first round of judging: Ann Ogden-Hauslein, Patricia Gordon-Michael, Gary Parzik, and new Hildene president, Craig Gemmel. They read all 147 essays, and then they winnowed them down to 22 and sent them on to the final round. So thank you so much to all of you for that Herculean effort. Thank you. Now, in your souvenir programs, you'll find a list of our esteemed final round judges from all across the country, along with their little mini bios. We're grateful for the time that they take to carefully evaluate each of these essays, doing the nuanced work of ranking what, at this point in the competition, are all excellent, very well-written essays. It's a daunting task. So that in alphabetical order, please rise when I call your name. We have 6 of these national judges here with us today. So please rise and remain standing, and we'll hold our applause until I've got through the whole list. So here we go. Blair Wyatt Berry, longtime LEC judge, distinguished museum professional, and volunteer for many nonprofit organizations. Jesse Keel, preservation specialist at the Northeast Document Conservation Center in Andover, Massachusetts, and formerly a Hildene staff member. You'll hear more about Jesse in a bit. Trustee emeritus again, Ken Moriarty, longtime LEC judge. Curtis Reed Jr., who just came in, also a very long-time LEC judge, president of CRJ Consulting Group, L3C, of which the Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity is a subsidiary. And Curtis also advised us on our Many Voices exhibit out at the Pullman car, and it's that installation that puts us on the Vermont African American Heritage Trail. So do get out to the Pullman if you can afterwards. And Eric Rose, also a former member of Hildene staff on the horticulture team. He's currently putting his ecological design degree to work as a gardener, consultant, and designer in East Hampton, Massachusetts, where he also serves on the board of the Pascomic Conservation Trust. And last, but certainly not least, Julio Thompson, also a longtime LEC judge. He is the Assistant Attorney General in the Office of the Vermont Attorney General, where he is co-director of the Civil Rights Unit. We're so pleased to have you all with us today. Thank you. Now, just as a little background for those of you who aren't perhaps familiar with the structure of this competition, the way it works is that we divide the state up into 4 regions, and in each region it's like its own little mini competition. So the judges choose a first, second, and third place winner in each of those 4 regions. And then those remaining finalists who weren't first, second, or third are all put back into one big pool, those finalists, and it's from there that the honorable mentions are chosen. And we can choose 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. We had 3 this year. One of the pleasures of hosting this award ceremony is that in addition to recognizing the students' accomplishments, we also get to honor those people who guided them so beautifully, the educators, many of whom have had winners in the past, and some, this is their first year having a winner. So while not all of the teachers could be here today, when I call your name, would you please rise and stay standing until we finish. We'll hold our applause until the end. So, the following teachers, each guided students receiving honorable mention: Devin Abbey from the Upper Valley Waldorf School in Quechee, Julia Maloney from Mater Christi School in Burlington, and Connor Welch from Maple Street School in Manchester Center. From Region 1, which consists of Grand Isle, Franklin, Orleans, Essex, Lamoille, Caledonia, and Washington counties, Ethan Cody from Crossett Brook Middle School in Duxbury with the first place winner, Ryan Van Dyke from People's Academy Middle Level in Mooresville with a second place winner, and we're delighted that People's Academy's principal Jessica Wills is also with us today. Josh O'Gorman from All Saints Catholic Academy in Mooresville with a third place winner. From Region 2, which consists of Chittenden County, we honor Jeremy DeMink of Edmonds Middle School in Burlington with the first place winner, and Abigail Deal Noble of Lake Champlain Waldorf School in Shelburne, who guided both a second and a third place winner. And we're delighted that head of school Emily Verpacht is also with us today. And from Region 3, which consists of Addison, Rutland, and Bennington counties, we honor Connor Welch again from Maple Street School in Manchester with a first place winner, and David Cornwell from Rutland Middle School, who guided both second and third place winners. And then Ned Bewig from Long Trail School in Dorset, who shepherded the rare third place tie in that region. From Region 4, which consists of Orange, Windsor, and Windham counties, we recognize Aaron Hanrahan of Woodstock Union Middle School, who had a first place winner, and Jessica Earp with both second and third place winners from the Brattleboro Area Middle School. Congratulations to the educators. And as a thank you to all the parents for raising such wonderfully engaged human beings, we will be giving each of the families a family membership that's good for a year. So while you are all certainly our guests for the rest of the day, we hope that you families will come back and come back year-round. There's so much to see and do all year round. Make sure that you do that, okay? Make sure your parents bring you here. So as a little memento, we're also sending home each winner with a keepsake bound edition of the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Along with that, so you can mark your favorite passage, is a felted bookmark. Many of them feature a quill in the process of writing the word we. And why is that? We as in we the people, or we hold these truths. Thank you, Ken. See, that's why he's a trustee emeritus. There you go. Absolutely. And then at the end of the tassel of the bookmark is a little tiny felted stovepipe hat. So when you go up to the house in the second inaugural exhibit, you'll see one of only 2 stovepipe hats that we know belong to Abraham Lincoln. So you'll see that up there. The other one's in the Smithsonian. I want you to know that our wonderful Hildene farm staff made these for you, and they made them out of the roving from our Corriedale sheep. So if you get down to the dean, in the lower level of our farm this afternoon, I hope that you will get to meet them, both the staff and the sheep. Yeah. There are lots of newborn lambs jumping around there, and at the goat dairy, lots of frolicking baby goats. Many of these bookmarks, and we hope that these bookmarks will remind you not only of your accomplishment today, but I hope that they will encourage you to keep reading, and to read deeply, and to keep feeding your wonderful, endless curiosity. It's a wonderful trait that you have. It will serve you well all your lives. So now, normally at this point, I would be joined by Hildene's president. And while President Gemmel could not be here today, he's not here physically, he does have a message for you. So let's hear that message now.
Hello everyone. My name is Craig Gemmel and I'm the president of Hildene. My job is to welcome you here today. Unfortunately, I'm not here to welcome you, so we're doing this as a recording, and I will explain a little bit more in a moment about why I'm not here, but what I want to say is congratulations. The Lincoln Essay Competition in its 20th year saw essays from all over the state of Vermont. I read every single one, and I found reason to love every single one. So if you are here, congratulations to you. If you're watching this from home, congratulations for tuning in to an event that is actually really important. It is important because you are thinking about matters that are larger than yourself. And you're doing so at a precious age. This is important work. The reason why it's important is because you will be able to more actively shape your future if you can take a critical stance on hard issues. One of the many things that Hildene is committed to is promoting civil discourse. Civil discourse begins with people having strong and well-informed opinions and knowing how to articulate them in a way that moves the opinions of others. You have done so. That you are sitting as an awardee is reason to be very, very proud. Now, why am I not here? I'm not here because my son is graduating from college today. My son, who 10 years ago was a Lincoln Essay participant. It was the moment when he decided he was a writer. He might not have won any accolades, but the process itself moved him to think about himself as a writer. And now, as he stands on the precipice of the future and is looking forward, he realizes how important the written word is to him. And as I've watched him move from being a still forming 8th grader to a beautifully confident and capable college graduate, despite being attentionally challenged and left-handed and dyslexic in the 21st century, what I saw from him gives me such hope for the future, and what I have learned from him leads me to give you a few pieces of advice. Number one, stay on your path. You have chosen to participate in the Lincoln Essay Contest. Find other ways to stretch yourself on your path and do so in a way that advances the objectives of those around you in the process. Stay on your path, do things that matter, and you will win. Others will win around you. And I look forward to finding out about what all of you end up doing in your lives beyond, and know that we at Hildene are so proud to be part of your process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gemmel. So in Mr. Gemmel's place, I have the great pleasure of welcoming Jesse Keel, who will join me on stage now to help officiate. Jessie is not only a final round judge, but also a former staff member, as I said, and she was Hildene's Special Collections and Exhibits Manager for many years. But Jessie first, I hope I get this right, Jessie. Jessie first started coming to Hildene when she was a little girl on school field trips from Arlington. And then at some point, just like you, when she was in 8th grade, she also entered the Lincoln Essay Competition and won an award. And then soon after, she began to volunteer as a docent up at the house, a tour guide. And then very soon after that, we knew we needed to hire her. So she became an employee here all through high school, all through college. She'd come back in the summer times. and through graduate school and then she came back and we hired her full-time as our special collections and exhibits manager. She's now doing fascinating work with the Northeast Document Conservation Center, and this takes her to places all over the country doing really, really interesting and important work. And so we're just delighted that Hildene's gravitational pull has once again brought her back to us. Jessie, welcome home.
Thank you, Stephanie. It is my pleasure to be here today with you all. There's no place I'd rather be on a gorgeous day in May than here at Hildene. But before getting to the awards, I think it's really important to understand this competition in the context of Hildene and its mission. Where are we? What is Hildene? This 412-acre ancestral home of Abraham Lincoln's son Robert and his wife Mary Harlan, Hildene was built in 1905. It was home to 3 generations of Lincolns for 70 years. But Hildene is far more than a preserved estate. Hildene is also a dynamic educational and cultural institution dedicated to using history, landscape, and community engagement to inspire reflection, leadership, and responsible stewardship. Rooted in the belief that the past remains deeply relevant to contemporary life, Hildene seeks to connect its visitors to enduring questions about democracy, responsibility, resilience, and the relationship between people and place. Throughout the property, guests are encouraged not simply to observe history, but to engage with it. And so central to Hildene's mission is the interpretation of history as a living and evolving narrative. So through the stories of Abraham Lincoln, Robert Lincoln, the African-American Pullman porters, and the presidential great-granddaughter Peggy Beckwith, who was actually the last one to live here at Hildene, Hildene explores themes of leadership, social change, industrialization, civil rights, and personal responsibility. These narratives invite visitors to examine both the promises and the complexities of the American experience while considering their role in shaping society. Hildene's commitment to stewardship also extends to the natural environment. The estate uses its fields, forests, and wetlands and regenerative agricultural practices. By integrating historical preservation and sustainability and community engagement, Hildene seeks to serve as a model for thoughtful stewardship and public purpose. And so all of this leads us here today to the purpose of the annual Lincoln Essay Competition, which I'll read as follows. Using Abraham Lincoln's legacy as touchstone, the goal of this competition is to promote awareness in the minds of a young generation of Americans of the responsibility that each of us has to do our part to make our community, our state, our country, and even our world a better place. And so for the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Hildene this year invited Vermont's 8th graders to reflect on the enduring significance of America's founding document. The Declaration of Independence set forth the idea that all men are created equal with certain unalienable rights, and that the governments derive their just power from the consent of the governed. Americans have continually debated how to interpret and uphold these rights and principles. They were, of course, later enshrined in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, but it's remained a source of contention in some instances. But Abraham Lincoln, in 1861, at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, stated, "I have never had a feeling politically that did not spring from the sentiments embodied in the Declaration of Independence." He believed that its principles and the rule of law formed the moral foundation of the nation, were ideals to strive toward and defend. And so, as Stephanie said, 147 Vermont 8th graders from the entire length and breadth of the state answered the following prompt. And now I'm going to run through the entire prompt, and that is going to take a second, but bear with me. So identify one liberty or principle that was expressed in the Declaration of Independence and connect it to one current issue that shows how that principle is either being eroded, upheld, or strengthened in America today. Describe the issue and explain what action is being proposed or implemented to address it. This can be, for example, by a government, community organization, a school, a club, it could be an individual, and then outline the potential impact you think these changes are having or might have, and describe how this either erodes, upholds, or strengthens the principle you've identified. And finally, reflect on how this issue might affect your own life, community, and explain why you think this development is either positive, negative, or both, and why. And they did all of that I just listed in 500 words or fewer. And so with that, at long last, it is now time to present the awards.
I would now like to ask the first round judges to come to the stage to help with this part of the presentation. So we are going to acknowledge the honorable mentions first, followed by the third place and second place winners in each region, and then we will hear readings from the 4 first place winners. When we call your name, please come up for your certificate and a photo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ann Ogden-Hauslein, and I am a co-director of Hildene Farm. I'm pleased to present the certificates of honorable mention and a check for $200 to 3 students whose truly excellent essays deserve to be recognized. In alphabetical order, we begin with Isla Dowd, Maple Street School, Manchester Center. Principles of the Declaration of Independence. Isla explores how the actions of ICE agents may conflict with the Declaration's promise of unalienable rights, particularly those of liberty and due process. While acknowledging differing perspectives, Isla emphasizes the human and community impact of immigration enforcement and the ongoing debate over its role. Congratulations, Isla. Our second place honorable mention goes to Wesley Price, Mater Christi School, Burlington. Limitations on executive power. Pointing to recent unilateral military actions by President Trump, Wesley contends that they violate constitutional principles and the Declaration of Independence's rejection of unchecked authority. He warns that expanding executive power without congressional approval threatens democracy, weakens alliances, and risks a return to imperialistic practices. Congratulations, Wesley. A third honorable mention goes to Evie Tom, Upper Valley Waldorf School. Unfortunately, Evie is not able to be with us at the last moment, but the freedom to be ourselves was the essay. Evie argues that restrictions on gender-affirming care for transgender youth violates the Declaration of Independence's unalienable right to the pursuit of happiness. She describes how essential access to such care is for a sense of well-being and contends that government interference undermines an individual's ability to live authentically.
I'll go ahead and get a picture for you.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Michael. I'm the Assistant Director of the Museum Store, Guest Services and Communications. We are now pleased to present the third place and second place winners. Beginning with Region 1, Hildene presents the third place award, a prize of $300 to Sonia Dalton at All Saints Catholic Academy in Morrisville. was access to mental health care as an American principle. She argues that cuts to mental health funding and services undermine the inalienable right in the Declaration of Independence of the pursuit of happiness. She contends that limited access to care harms individuals and communities, and that strengthening mental health support is necessary to uphold liberty and well-being. The Region 1 second place winner, receiving a prize of $400, goes to Sevi Bickerstaff, People's Academy Middle Level, Morrisville. Sevi wrote on the Electoral College, essential or destructive. She maintains that the Electoral College is an outdated system which undermines democratic equality by distorting representation and allowing outcomes that do not reflect the popular vote. She contends that abolishing it would better align with the Declaration of Independence principles of equality and fair representation. Congratulations, Sevi.
Hello everyone, my name is Gary Parzik, and I am Hildene's Exhibits and Collections Director. From Region 2, I am pleased to present the third place award, a prize of $300 to Ella Baer Pact, Lake Champlain Waldorf School, Shelburne. Access denied, equality under the law in the U.S. today. Ella asserts that recent policies by the Trump administration targeting immigrants and other marginalized groups violate the principle of equal protection under the law. The writer contends that these actions erode trust in the justice system, especially among young people, and she calls for renewed commitment to the nation's founding ideals of equality. Congratulations, Ella. The Region 2 second place winner, receiving a prize of $400, goes to Ariel Greenblatt, Lake Champlain Waldorf School, Shelburne. America's religious freedom is under attack. Ariel explores the increasing government involvement in promoting religion, specifically Christianity, finding that it violates the principle of liberty in the Declaration of Independence and the implicit concept of separation of church and state. Pointing to infringements by both the Trump administration and within Vermont, Ariel argues that these actions promote hate crimes, marginalize minority faiths, and threaten the freedom of individuals to practice religion independently. Congratulations, Ariel.
Now, from Region 3, we present the third place award to two students this year in a rare tie. One of the awards, and a prize of $300, goes to Viva McLeod, Long Trail School, Dorset. Viva's essay is entitled "A Country That Has Traded Its Conscience for Borders." She contends that current immigration enforcement practices undermine the founding principle of equality by disproportionately targeting Latino immigrants, the vast majority of whom have no criminal record. These actions contradict the ideals of human dignity and fairness outlined in the Declaration, she argues, raising concerns about the direction of American democracy. Viva underscores the importance of individuals and organizations to challenge governmental overreach. Congratulations, Viva. And the other third place award, and a prize of $300, goes to Oliver Mitchell, Rutland Middle School. Rutland. In his essay, America Denied Liberty, Oliver argues that recent violent incidents involving Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, ICE, demonstrate a troubling erosion of liberty in the United States, particularly the rights to free speech and self-defense. The author connects these events to the Declaration of Independence and reflects on the fear these actions create for his generation and community. Congratulations. The Region 3 second place winner, receiving a prize of $400, goes to Peyton Allen, Rutland Middle School, Rutland, teacher David Cornwell. In her essay, Peyton, entitled When Survival Replaces the Pursuit of Happiness, Peyton argues that the rising cost of living forces many families to focus on basic survival rather than the pursuit of happiness. Focusing on housing affordability and economic inequality, Peyton identifies several steps that local and state agencies and organizations are pursuing to address the issue. The author warns about the cascading fallout, however, if these efforts are limited or delayed. Congratulations, Peyton.
And in Region 4, we are pleased to present the third place award, a prize of $300 to Elsa Anders, Brattleboro Area Middle School, Brattleboro. ICE or Us, a fight for our founding principles. Elsa outlines how ICE practices are undermining the principle of rule of law by disregarding due process. She also describes how ICE mistreats those in custody through unlawful deportation, mental neglect, solitary confinement, and separation of families. Such actions, Elsa contends, contradict the values expressed in the Declaration of Independence and create fear within communities across the country, including her own. Congratulations, Elsa. The Region 4 second place winner, receiving a prize of $400, goes to Luca Minukin, Brattleboro Area Middle School, Brattleboro. Gender-affirming healthcare. Luca argues that laws restricting gender-affirming care violate the principle of liberty by interfering with individuals' rights to make personal medical decisions. The writer contends that such policies harm mental health and deny transgender individuals equal access to essential care. Congratulations, Luca.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you, Anne, Patricia, and Gary. I would now like to ask the 4 first place winners to make your way up onto the stage. And I'd also like to ask Ken Moriarty, Trustee Emeritus, former board chair, to also join us on the stage. I would also like to ask all of you to put away your programs if you've been following the notes. Go ahead and put them away so that we can just focus on each of the readers as they share their words with you. Okay, and now for the 2026 Lincoln Essay Competition first place winners. From Region 1, winning $500, first place win goes to Ari Wiegand, Crossett Brook Middle School, Duxbury, teacher Ethan Cody. Ari?
A promise to history. Although the phrase "all men are created equal" is widely praised, The Declaration of Independence's promise of equality has not been true for everyone. Many of the founders who wrote those words owned and enslaved Black people, profiting from their forced labor while proclaiming universal rights. Signed in 1776, the Declaration laid the foundation for American ideals. But centuries of racial oppression show those ideals have not always been upheld. Today, many people, especially Black communities, continue to experience systemic inequality, and recent immigration enforcement practices have exacerbated these injustices. This essay explores how the 14th Amendment has been upheld and undermined by connecting historical context with modern policy and lived experiences. To understand how equality has been defended and denied in America, it is important to examine the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868 after the Civil War. This amendment promised that all people born in the United States were citizens and that no state could deny anyone equal protection of the laws. In theory, it was meant to ensure that formerly enslaved Black Americans would finally be treated as equal under the Constitution. Although the amendment was a major step forward, its protections were repeatedly ignored, weakened, and challenged through racist laws and government systems that allowed discrimination to continue. The 14th Amendment may have been written to protect equality, but history shows that the United States has often found ways to deny its protection in practice. Marginalized communities continue to face discrimination through policing and immigration enforcement, placing families and communities in danger. According to TRIC Immigration, in January alone, there have been over 36,000 arrests and over 70,000 people kept in detention, with nearly 3/4 having no criminal convictions and 8 recorded deaths. For example, a local immigrant pastor was recently detained and transported out of state despite his protection against being deported. This shows that when government enforces laws that disproportionately target marginalized communities, the promise of the 14th Amendment becomes fragile, feeling more of a facade than real. Despite ongoing challenges, the 14th Amendment has also protected equality in landmark cases. Brown v. Board of Education ended legal school segregation, affirming that separate but equal is inherently unequal. More recently, Obergefell v. Hodges used the amendment to guarantee marriage equality for same-sex couples. These examples show that while the amendment's protections are not automatic, it remains a powerful tool for challenging injustice when enforced. The gap between America's ideals and reality shows that equality is never guaranteed. It must be defended constantly. In my home state, immigration enforcement has created fear and division, breaking apart families and weakening trust within communities, which I view as a deeply negative development. By shining light on systemic inequality, this essay calls on readers to engage with the world critically and push for a society where the promise of equal protection is more than just words on paper. True justice comes when awareness meets action and when we refuse to let discrimination define our future. Thank you.
From Region 2, winning $500, first place winner, Adeline Laughlin. Edmonds Middle School, Burlington, teacher Jeremy Demink.
I just want to say this is dedicated to my friend Emma Rodriguez Cabal. More than a wall. From your backyard fence to the border between America and Mexico, walls are everywhere. Both physical walls and the far more dangerous ideological ones. They give a false sense of security, block ideas and innovation, and symbolize a failing society. We are a country founded by immigrants. Most can trace their roots to another place. Our very design is that of a revolutionary mix of people and ideologies in direct opposition to the rule of King George III, whom, as Jefferson wrote in the Declaration, directly obstructed the laws of naturalization for foreigners. I fear that we are recreating the work of King George and that the once oppressed have become the oppressors by creating a wall, not of mortar and stone, but something more dangerous and more difficult to topple. Over time, America has built walls between countries, political views, and racial identities, a barrier feared by the founders and now felt by our farmers. In Vermont alone, 94% of dairy farms rely on migrant workers. These workers, who provide $503.9 million in tax contributions and hold $1.2 billion in spending power, are the heart of Vermont. Without migrant workers, our economy would collapse. Some say that immigrants obtaining citizenship is the solution. However, climbing the wall to citizenship is filled with obstacles. Emma Rodriguez, an Argentinian immigrant, shared, "We got an email saying that we would have a meeting to get a green card, but at the meeting, we had to wait 12 to 8 months to get it." Her family was filled with fear while attending that meeting, thinking that it was potentially the last time they would see their Vermont home. People in power say you need to trust the system, but how can you trust something that constantly contradicts itself? The good thing about walls is they can be taken down. The border wall may take generations to erode, however, we can unite to tear it down, open our gates, and strengthen our country. Filmmaker, journalist, and rights activist Jose Antonio Vargas, who lived in the US illegally for 31 years before gaining his citizenship, is an example of how immigrants are more than just illegals. His mission is to give a voice to millions of immigrants through film and storytelling, so that more can understand that immigrants are the foundation of our country and should not be feared. If we allow the construction of this wall to continue, the one that divides and separates, are we any better than the oppressors that we rallied against years ago? Continuing to ignore the laws of naturalization will hurt America's present and future. From the foundation of our economy to your next door neighbor, this impacts more than just immigrants. We need to take the bricks used to construct these ideological walls of difference and use them to rebuild the foundation of our nation, based on the constitutional principles embedded in our founding documents. Thank you.
From Region 3, winning $500, first place winner, Dylan Mixis, Maple Street School, Manchester Center. Teacher is Connor Welch.
The cost of losing public media. A nation's true character is measured not by its ideals, but by how well it preserves them when they are tested. The Declaration of Independence captures America's beliefs in freedom, equality, and the right to challenge unjust power. It is impossible to fully comprehend a nation's spirit without understanding its founding principles, even when the country struggles to live up to them. One of America's core principles, liberty, is currently under threat. Government defunding of public broadcasting erodes this ideal by limiting communities' access to relevant local news. By restricting citizens' access to reliable information, essential for informed democratic participation, defunding broadcasting violates the Declaration's guarantee of liberty. The document characterizes liberty as an unalienable right inherent to all people, understood as the ability to decide one's own actions. This framing establishes liberty as a universal freedom that exists independently of government control. The Declaration's authors believed that protecting such liberty required an informed public capable of self-governance. Although written in 1776, this principle remains relevant today by ensuring citizens can stay informed through public radio and other public media outlets. Recently, the Trump administration proposed federal funding cuts to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or the CPB, because it claimed public radio stations were untruthful and biased towards liberals. However, independent media bias and fact-checking organizations consistently rate both outlets as highly factual, even when noting a slight left-leaning perspective. After the executive order was signed, decisions by the CPB significantly reduced funding for hundreds of rural community media stations. In some cases, these stations were the only source of local news for their communities. For example, over 26 rural Alaskan public broadcasting stations faced closure, leaving the residents uninformed about weather updates, emergency alerts, and community-specific programming. In regions with limited internet access and extreme weather conditions, the loss of these stations threatens to put lives at risk. emphasizes this impact. Elisa Barba, a representative of a CPB-funded initiative, explains that, as local newspapers shutter, public media stations have the opportunity to fill the gap left in these potential news deserts. Defunding public broadcasting stations is eroding this guarantee of liberty because it's actively undermining a crucial source of diverse, independent news, weakening local journalism that serves smaller communities. Local news is important, and without it, both liberty and civic participation are diminished, especially at a local level. Having lived in both an urban area with many news options and a rural Vermont community where public radio is one of a very small number of reliable sources of local information, I have seen how essential public broadcasting is to liberty. Defunding public broadcasting overlooks the long-term responsibility to invest in an informed public and undermines a democratic society's obligation to ensure access to reliable information. While fiscal responsibility is important, it should never come at the cost of weakening the foundations of democracy. When access to reliable information disappears, liberty inevitably fades with it. Thank you.
Let's get a picture with Ken too. Yeah, there we go. All right, here you go. And finally, last but not least, from Region 4, winning $500, first place winner, Nora Wolf, Woodstock Union Middle School in Woodstock, teacher Erin Hanrahan.
Frozen liberty. From the very first sentence of the Declaration of Independence, the United States has made clear that one of the nation's most valued tenets is liberty, the power and freedom to act, speak, and live without unjust restrictions from the government or others. However, recently this core value of the United States has been challenged by its very own federal governmental law enforcement agency, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. Their recent actions regarding illegal immigration, including aggressive enforcement maneuvers and unwarranted searches in the U.S., are uprooting the country's founding value of liberty. Among other transgressions, ICE has been specifically targeting the liberty of free speech by surveilling activists, protesters, and journalists who oppose their new immigration policies. This is producing widespread terror for many immigrants and citizens who are now hesitant to speak up about the injustice for fear of detention and/or deportation. A recent poll from CNN shows that 6 in 1 Americans think that ICE has gone too far, and that 51% of Americans say that ICE enforcement actions are making cities less safe rather than safer. In our country, we cherish and seek to cultivate free speech and expression, yet our own inhabitants are terrified to share their stories and opinions because of a federal agency formed to protect them. In response to this growing issue, many Americans are protesting against the restriction of their liberties. On January 23, 2026, according to the BBC News, hundreds of businesses in Minnesota closed, and thousands of protesters turned out in severely cold weather to demonstrate against the ongoing immigration crackdown in the state. Every day, the protests against ICE are growing, and if enough people rally together, like what is being done right now, we stand a chance at restoring freedom in our nation. And if the protests remain peaceful but insistent, it will become almost impossible to ignore the cry for liberty, as it was at the nation's founding. These protests themselves were, and still are today, an expression of our liberties, which we fought to declare and are fighting now to defend. Last year in my class, there was a boy who had recently moved to Vermont from Venezuela. He could only speak a little English, but within a short period, he made a meaningful impact on our class. Because of him, we learned many valuable life skills, such as compassion, patience, and understanding. However, sadly, the current Trump administration and the fear of ICE led to his abrupt departure and left our class mourning a good friend and a wonderful experience. ICE's policies have created fear and a lack of diversity in my own classroom and have made many people, like my classmates, feel unsafe and dispossessed of their liberties in our country. Our Declaration of Independence guarantees us certain unalienable rights that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. rights which must be defended. Thank you.
Well, how about a round of applause for all the first place winners? I wish we had time to hear all of the essays read in full. They're magnificent, but they are in your souvenir programs. So I hope you'll take a time to look at those and read through them at some point. And now it's time for lunch. Please wait until Pangea comes to your table to tell you when to go up to the buffet. And then when we get to dessert, we'll have some closing remarks and tell you more about what's going to happen for the rest of the day. So, well done. Thank you. Now I am very pleased to introduce former Hildene trustee, Margaret Keating. She's one of the competition's generous benefactors, and she's going to say a few words, and then I'll give you instructions for the rest of the day. Margaret, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you all for being here. What an exciting event to celebrate these wonderful young thinkers. It really is my pleasure to be here today. I commend you all of the essay writers. I want to commend you all on the very thoughtful and passionate essays you have written. It is in the same spirit which is necessary to maintain our freedoms. Liberty is fragile. It can only be maintained by educating oneself, voting, which you will all soon be able to do, and writing other things that you can do now already, of course, is writing letters to editors of news media, talking to your peers, and by peaceful protest. I live in Boston, and every weekend there's a peaceful protest in the Boston Common, which has great historical significance because the Boston Common was founded in 1630, the same time that the town of Boston was founded. So we have these very, very deep roots of getting together, having rallies, protesting, and showing what's important to us. This is one of the easiest ways to speak to power that we have. So I want you to always remember, there are more of you citizens out there than there are politicians who make the rules for us. You have the power. Congratulations to you all on your winning essays. So congratulations, everybody.
Okay, so you are all our guests for the rest of the day, and what's going to happen next is that you all, if you're staying, you would have gotten peony stickers. They might want to jump off of you. You have to pat them every now and then, but that will give you access to all the venues on the 412 acres. Hildene is located up here on this knoll. This is the hill of Hildene, and then there's the half of the property is in the lower level, which is the Dean, which means valley with stream in Old English term. So we're going to go up the hill to the house first. We're going to have a group photo first, Gary, that's a change in plans because we have to, anyway. Okay, so we're gonna do the group photo first, and then we'll have an introduction from Gary, and then we'll divide you up into groups, and we'll lead you in for we call it a crazy house tour because it's so fast. You won't be able to see everything, we won't point out everything, but that's because you get to come back anytime you want. So you can come back for the full experience, or you can stay longer afterwards if you'd like. So then after the lunch, if anybody wants to change, you can come back here to change, or in the Welcome Center, and you can put your things up on the stage, and that will be fine. And then you can, from there, go to the Pullman car, you can walk to that easily. You can also go to the goat dairy on this level. And we'll also be running 2 shuttle buses, so we can take you down to the lower level more quickly and get you back up. So you can look for those things. Also, for those of you who are leaving, if you need special assistance, we do have a tram out here, and that can take you up to the house, but also back down to the Welcome Center. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, because Ted Rappahan is here, and he's our financial director, and he said, make sure you tell the students to, what?
Cash your checks.
Cash your checks, please. And let's see, so we're going to do that, and then there's just lots to do. Again, I said the Pullman car, there's the goat dairy, we have just some new baby goats. The last of the baby goats was just born yesterday, day before yesterday. And then down in the animal barn, we have new lambs and everything. It's just a lot of fun. There's a 600-foot floating boardwalk, an 1830s schoolhouse, a state-of-the-art teaching greenhouse, and so much more. So see what you can today, and then come back often. Let's see, we talked about changing clothes. I think that's everything. So I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank all of my colleagues for putting on this party. To our benefactors, deep thanks. And to everyone, the judges and all of you families and educators, thank you so much for encouraging this kind of work and encouraging our fantastic, marvelous Vermont 8th graders. Let's have one more round of applause.